Hi, my name is Daryl. Alongside my teammates, I'll be covering step 4 and 5.
Hi, my name is Sean and I'm going to do step 3.
Hi, my name is Margaret and I'm covering step 2.
Hi, my name is Begisha and I'm covered the introduction in step 1.
Our team name is Spider-Man. So if you're wondering how did we come up with our team name, it's actually the first initials of our name. Hello. So the main purpose and or objective for us to shoot this video is to demonstrate the 5 steps of the consumer decision making process during the purchasing decision. So here are the 5 steps.
Our target market is Generation Y. The group range for this generation are adult and young adult. The age is between 24 to 39. Those born in 1999 fits closer to teen cohort and started to work. And those born in 1979 have families and careers. They have higher income and have stronger purchasing power. We focus more on men and women. Men place a higher priority on location and convenience and often vary from their list, creating opportunities for grocers to encourage impulse buys. Women are main decision makers when it comes to the purchase of a huge variety of goods and services. Step 1. Need recognitions. This often identified as the first and most important step in the consumer decision process. A purchase cannot take place without the recognitions of the need. The need may have been triggered by internal stimuli or external stimuli. Phones can let us contact others whenever we want. The only thing that we need to do is just key in the number and call. It is more convenient. Next, we can get easier access to more information from the internet to increase our knowledge. If we are lost, we can use GPS, and if we are missing our classes, we can use sound recorder to record. Nowadays, phones are not only used to contact each other, but also can use for trading such as invest forex and online selling. Consumers will be intrigued to buy a smartphone because of its outstanding features. Firstly, the GPS can show us where we are and how can we go to a location. Secondly, we can take photos whenever we want. Third, we don't need to bring a heavy cameras. Thirdly, the social media apps allow us to communicate with friends around the world and be aware of news that happens all over the world. The global connections link us closer to each other. After that, the alarm clock features help wake us from our slumber or short nap. Sometimes we can set up reminders. The most important elements that will intrigue consumers to buy a smartphone is the mobile internet usage. Without internet, most of the apps will not function. Lastly, everyone uses mobile phone. This will intrigue people to buy smartphone too.
Hey, it's kind of late. You gonna call your parents to go home?
Yeah, sure.
It's 7.
Okay, sure.
Hey, Peggy. Hi, why are you here?
I don't have a smartphone so that I can call my parents.
Oh, okay. That's all.
Yeah, sure.
Alright.
In the second step of the consumer decision-making process, information search is essential as it provides the consumer details and the attributes of a product of interest and allowing consumers to evaluate whether the product contains key attributes linked to the consumer's wants and needs, hence allowing consumers to arrive at a more clarified decision-making process. Information search can be executed internally or externally. Internal information search is primarily used for habitual and limited decision making, whereby the consumer would recall information readily stored in memory and refer to their previous experiences with the iPhone 8. External information search requires the consumer to seek information in the outside environment, and this can be divided into non-marketing controlled information source and marketing controlled information source. Non-marketing controlled information source refers to sources which are not associated with advertising or promotion. This includes the consumer's own personal experiences of observing, testing, or trying out the iPhone 8 in stores. In addition, personal sources, which include the consumer's family, friends, acquaintances, and co-workers, often provide information via word of mouth. Plus, public sources can be looked into. Examples include the consumer reports and critical reviews posted in blogs, bulletin boards, activist websites, web forums, and consumer opinion sites. In terms of marketing control information source, there are various sources such as mass media advertising via the newspaper, TV, and magazines. Plus, sales promotions can be engaged via contests, promotions, and displays. Other examples of sources include salespeople, product labels, packaging, and articles on the internet written by Apple's marketeers. The extent to which a consumer conducts an external search depends on their prior experience with Apple and various smartphone brands and the level of interest in them. The consumer's readily available knowledge of the product is another factor. The more knowledgeable they are of the iPhone 8 and its alternatives, the more efficient they would be in conducting the search process if needed at all. In addition, the consumer's perceived relatively high risk of the product is a crucial factor due to the iPhone 8's high expense and technical nature. The opportunity cost of the value of time finding the right item will be less than that of purchasing the wrong item. In the final stage of the information search, consumers are required to analyze and select among a group of selections of various brands known as the evoke set or consideration set, listing the consumer's most preferred alternatives possessing attributes that best satisfy the consumer wants and needs in terms of price, warranty, physical attractiveness, brand image, and polarizing features.
Step 3. Evaluation of alternatives. Before a customer decides to purchase a smartphone, he will check out its competitors too. The table shown here compares our product with its competitors such as the Samsung S7, Sony Xperia Z1, and the Oppo F7. As seen, the size of the competitors' phones are bigger compared to iPhone 8. Furthermore, the processing power of competitors' phones are much more powerful. Camera quality is also better than iPhone 8, both the primary and secondary cameras. But iPhone 8 has its own operating system compared to its competitors, making it very unique. It is also the only phone which has its own built-in storage as big as 256 GB. Although the price of iPhone 8 is much higher compared to its competitors, the fact that it has less defects makes the iPhone 8 a preferable choice for customers. Furthermore, due to the fact that the competitors' phones has powerful processors, a lot of energy is needed, and this will decrease the battery lifespan dramatically over time. iPhone 8 has such a rare case of problems. iPhone 8 was also easy to carry around and is also very light.
Step 4. Purchase decision. Step 4 is where all the consumers gather all their information from previous steps. After that, they will start to evaluate and categorize the information that they have, and eventually they will also know whether they really want to buy the product or not. As a result, consumers might be influenced during the purchasing process. So here are some factors that they may influence consumers during the purchase process.
Hey Sean,
Is this the latest iPhone 8?
Yeah, it is.
Can I borrow and have a look?
Yeah, sure, no problem. Just be careful about it. Yeah?
Okay, sure. Oh my god, the size is actually very comfortable and the apps are very good. Oh, very nice phone. One of the factors that may influence the consumer's purchasing process is that you can get opinions from your friends, families, or even co-workers that you've been working with before. They will tend to lend you their phone and tell opinions about the phone. You can actually borrow their phone and check whether it's the size you want, get opinions from them. They will tell you basically everything they know. Next, one of the main factors that will intrigue consumers to buy Apple's product is that Apple outlets throughout Malaysia is consistently giving out promotions. So this will likely trigger the consumer's purchase decision and go with Apple's product. To finish, with good reviews and wide advertisements, consumers will feel more comfortable going with Apple's product and to purchase it because it is liked by many others, not only throughout Malaysia but the entire world. Step 5. Post-purchase behavior. When the consumer is buying the product, they will likely to expect a certain outcome from the purchase. For example, if the consumer's expectations and needs are fulfilled, this will lead to a certain amount of satisfaction from the consumers. They will likely to be satisfied with the product due to the fact that the phone is at its best condition. Needless to say about the battery, camera, quality, and so on. They will also doubt the performance of the phone because iPhone 8 is the most expensive amongst all the phones at its price point. This might impact the consumer's next purchase due to the experience of their product. If there isn't any defects or lag issues occurred by the phone, consumers will tend to stick with iPhone, therefore making them a loyal brand purchaser. But if the phone that is purchased by the consumers did not meet the requirement or expectations, they will lean towards another brand other than Apple.
In conclusion, the consumer decision-making process on the purchase of an iPhone 8 by Apple refers to a process comprising 5 steps which are engaged by members of the Generation Y as our target market. In the first step of need recognition, consumers require a smartphone as a smartphone has become an essential device utilized daily in the lives of Generation Y members in their day-to-day activities. Apropos of the second step of information search, consumers would source for information internally or externally on the iPhone 8 and determine whether it fulfills the criteria of satisfying the wants and needs of a typical Generation Y member in the smartphone. Next, the third step discusses the evaluation of alternatives of the smartphone 8, whereby consumers would analyze alternative smartphone brands of directly equivalent type and identify the advantages and disadvantages of each alternative. Then, the smartphone that best fulfills the key attributes evaluated by a typical Generation Y consumer will be selected. In the fourth step of purchase decision, factors that might influence the consumer during the purchasing process are identified. In the final step of post-purchase behavior, the consumer identifies whether they feel satisfied or dissatisfied with the product and the reasons as to why. Furthermore, they would identify how their experience with this iPhone 8 purchase would impact their next smartphone purchase. In the perspective of Apple as a manufacturer and seller, the consumer decision-making process is important to be evaluated so as to understand the fulfilling criteria the consumer puts into each step of the decision-making process and hence identifying how to incorporate the aforementioned criteria in the processes of purchasing an iPhone 8. Furthermore, the consumer decision-making process is also essential in the consumer's perspective, so as to ensure that the product of interest possesses the required key attributes linked with the consumer's wants and needs, and to ensure that little to no loss is incurred with the purchase of the product. The opportunity cost of the value of time finding the right item will be less than that of purchasing the wrong item.
I think that the smartphone company can do the market research or the customer survey to know that what can be developed or improved, such as the size of the smartphone, the color, the memories of it, or the camera. The purpose of this is because to attract the new customer and retain the old customer, to increase the market share. When the product market share is increased, the profit of it will increase too.
Besides, in the line of making information on the iPhone 8 and any promotions attached more conveniently and easily accessible to consumers, Apple should take the initiative of reaching out to the consumers and having their information or promotions delivered to the consumers beforehand. Many companies are still making the mistake of not getting involved in online conversations about their brand. Furthermore, even brands with an online presence are still ignoring 70% of consumer complaints that reach them via social media. Hence, Apple should direct a better focus and emphasis on social media advertising, whereby informative posts and promotions would be conveniently viewed on the consumer's newsfeed. Marketing control information source would be engaged in this matter. In this revolutionary digital age world, 80% of Generation Y log into social media every day. Furthermore, 88% of millennials surveyed get news from Facebook. Many millennials use social media as a source of news and collecting information. They stated their preference of obtaining their news on social media in comparison to other forms. Furthermore, non-marketing control information in the form of personal sources is utilized, whereby consumers would share informative or promotional posts to followers of their account, allowing such information to be published in their followers' newsfeed. On the other hand, consumers are able to tag their friends in posts on social media such as Facebook and Twitter, allowing such posts to be accessible to their friends via notifications.
For my recommendation for the iPhone 8, I would recommend them to include the micro SD card. For the past older versions of iPhones, they have not included the micro SD card option, and instead they only provide internal storage, and therefore a lot of people have been a bit concerned about it, because they would prefer it if they could have an extra slot just for photos and etc. As you can see here, this is the iPhone 6 and older version, and there's no micro SD card.
For the recommendation part, I recommend that Apple can organize campaigns or workshops with unique commercials or advertisements and marketing tools to generate publicity. And also, I recommend that Apple workers inside Apple outlets can provide specific and also detailed information to their customers, because this will likely to intrigue or trigger the consumer's buying decision.